As of 2017, Kenya was the largest exporter of black tea, producing approximately 23% of the world's share. This translates to 458.85 million kilograms of the crop per year. The cash crop remains the top export earner, grossing 147.3 billion shillings. Tea is mainly grown in Kericho, Bomet, Nandi, Kiambu, Murang'a, Sotik, Kisii, Nyamira, Meru, Nyeri, Kirinyaga, Embu, Kakamega, Nakuru, and Trans Nzoia. Majority of the workforce behind the production of this commodity are womenfolk who undertake the task of tea picking in the farms. Curiously, the large numbers of women are concentrated in the lower ranks of the workforce, while men still dominate the managerial positions in the tea farms. In this regard, FIDA-Kenya partnered with the African Women Development Fund to sensitize women on their labor and economic rights of women workers in the Kericho tea zones in Kenya.
It's important to empower the women workers because they are the workforce behind the tea that we enjoy, behind the tea that brings so much income to this country. There's so much income that we earn from tea exports in this country.
Pia hii chai imetusaidia, tumechuna karibu miaka 10 na tumeona imetusaidia sana. Alafu hii chai imelisha pia familia yetu.
So we've been able to interact with the stakeholders, various stakeholders at the county level. And the interaction with the stakeholders was that we have realized that there are these violations that go on in the farms, and we wanted to find out if the stakeholders are then aware and what steps they are taking. And of course, penetrating the tea sector was not an easy journey. It has not been an easy journey either. To date, we've not managed to get access into most of the multinational farms. We mostly interact with the small-scale farmers and their workers. And of course, for the workers that we train who work in the multinational farms, we have to train them off-site because we are not allowed entry into the farms.
Kericho is a cosmopolitan society, and amidst Kericho we have tea estates. This is where most women go to look for their bread and butter. But the issues they are facing are quite agonizing. Issues like discrimination in terms of employment and issues like being cucked in the employment sectors.
Kaingia huko nikafanya kazi, wakati hiyo mpaka kazi yangu akaonekana ni mzuri. Manager mwenye alikuwa wakati hiyo akanisaidia kazi ya security. Nikakuwa security kama chenda lete. Nikafanya hiyo kazi mpaka akafika mahali au wakubwa wengine akaona kazi ninafanya anastahili aniongezee wanawake, kaniongezea genders. Tukafanya na hawa, kumbe alikuwa anataka ni train hawa ndio aningoe tena. Nikatrain hawa kumaliza hapo, akaningoa, akanitafutia makosa, akaningoa, akanirusha kwa chai. Mali yenye nikipata usaidizi kwa chai hawezi saidia kwangu, hawezi.
They have been able to forward other violations to us, which include sexual gender-based violence.
Sasa msichana alifanya form 4. Kufanya form 4 mtu akatia mimba. Nikajaribu kuripotia kampuni na niendea hivi. Na huyu mtu alikuwa na familia yake.
Kwa harassment iko juu sana. Saa ingine ukienda kuomba kazi wanaitisha pesa kidogo ama ukae nao watu ukwe rafiki yao, lakini nilikataa hiyo kwa hiyo miaka yote, sababu sikuwa nataka nitumie mwili yangu huko ndani. Sauri ya ugonjwa, hali ya ugonjwa tena ni mbaya huku, kama ukimwi utaweza wacha watoto. Sababu nilikuwa zero, nilikuwa temporary. Hakuwa najali wewe, alikuwa nakufuta hata na utembeze clearance hiyo.
As a result of this direct or indirect discrimination at the workplace, women are less able to compete with men for skilled positions at the tea farms. The comparatively lower levels of education and the financial pressures they face on account of raising families leaves women little to no room to take economic risks worthy of achieving economic success.
Other issues that they probably experience in terms of the conditions under which they're working. They're sometimes not so suitable conditions. The fear is, if today I present this case before the court and my employer is aware of the matter before the court, will I be able to continue working for the employer? Most of them are casual employees. So when they take on the casual employment, or when they are paid in terms of wages and such like matters, it is so easy to replace them. And what the employers normally do, they can find any reason to dismiss them. And once this is done, it makes the employees fear coming forth to report matters that are happening in the tea farms.
Tuna report kwa kampuni, lakini kampuni hawezi chukua kama uzito. Kwanza ukikuwa mtu unaenda kuripoti saa yote vitu kama hizo, atakutafutia makosa, akutoe kabisa, akufuta kabisa, uende nyumbani.
It's easier to access the women working in the small-scale tea farms, but the issues will not be so serious compared to the issues faced by the women working in the tea estates. These issues include low pay, they work extra hours.
Sisi tunakuanga na shida, saa zingine tunachuna ikiwa inanyesha.
Anza saa 12 mpaka 6, asiponyesha unaendelea. Mvua tu anatukatisha tu tuende kwa nyumba. La sivyo tunaendelea tu bila lunch, bila chochote.
But of course, even as COVID happened, we got then a new set of challenges, because the farms will tell us that the business had gone down. They had to lay down workers. They had to retain some on half pay. They had to really make them work on rotations. And this then meant that the workers would have even lower income. And then that then even exposed them more to violations. So, of course, I also learned recently that the quarantine requirements really affected the workers, because they will say, if you were to leave the factory and come back, you'll be subjected to 14 days mandatory quarantine at the facilities that are provided by the factory. But of course, the facilities were not really up to standard, and it's been a challenge. It's been a challenge, and I would say that the pandemic was unprecedented for everyone, but there are basic human rights-based approaches that we can apply even as we interact with the workers.
Wenye walikuwa wameenda nyumbani juzi, wenye walikuwa hii corona vile iliingia, kuna wenye walikuwa wameenda Kisii. Sasa wenye wanachuna chai vile walisikia wameenda, wakaambiwa wasirudi, wakae huko mpaka corona iishe ndio wakuje.
Despite the clamor for change propelled by various non-governmental organizations in the women's rights space, it is apparent that lack of political goodwill in enforcing the legal framework has been feeble, as sufficient resources have not been channeled towards this cause.
You can realize that though there are several cases of rape, defilement, sexual harassment, even in terms of promotion for women, the coming of 2010 constitution, the coming in of most focal women in the society, the coming in of organization of a series of meetings by FIDA on frequent basis has been able to harness the social economic crises that are affecting women, especially in tea estates, not even in Kericho alone, but across the country.
FIDA-Kenya has a knowledge and management team that is so focused on developing user-friendly guides to laws on behalf of the organization. So we've been able to develop friendly versions of labor laws that we've shared with the women workers, and for us, especially the trainers, and we hope that they can use them in their sessions.
FIDA-Kenya, in partnership with the AWDF, the basis of us partnering is for us to be able to recognize or find out the violations that take place in the tea zones. And for us to be able to get the violations that happens at the tea zones, we need to have representation for the women who work in the tea farms. The cause of the project, the main stakeholders that we were working with include the pro bono advocates, the Ministry of Agriculture, the Office of the Ministry of Labor. We've also worked with the CBOs, who are our main point men on the ground. We've also worked with the Women Workers Committee, We've also worked with the judiciary, and we've tried to involve other stakeholders in this particular one. But of more interest currently, the people who we've engaged with a lot are the community-based organizations.
Tuwafunze marafiki zetu, kama tukiwa kwa chama tunawafunza wakina mama, tukiwa kwa mkutano, after kumaliza mkutano tunawasanyana wakina mama na tunaongea.
As FIDA-Kenya, we set out to build the capacities of the women workers, because we'd done a baseline survey and found out that most of the violations that the women workers go through is because, one, they're not aware about their labor and economic rights, and probably two, the laws that are in place are then not fully implemented. Most of these women do not understand that they even have a right to join a union, and even if they're in the union, they don't understand the collective bargaining agreements, they don't understand their rights, that as the union negotiates on their behalf, they're not protected, because we still hear of so much violations. For us, the main reason why we found out that the paralegals would be an important group in this project was because they are the ones who live within the community where these women workers operate, and they are trusted because they are able to identify these cases, they are able to monitor, they are able to refer the cases. So for us, they are on our eyes on the ground, and we really hope that the work we've done with the paralegals over the years will still be manifested in terms of being able to promote the women workers' rights and their labor and economic rights.
It is apparent that joint and complementary efforts by the sector stakeholders promote equitable social economic participation of all actors in the sector, more so, women workers and their communities. If social economic inclusion is to be achieved, a people-centered strategy is key to inform the sector policies and practices.
We really thank FIDA, and of course we really want to continue with this kind of collaboration, because at least we have been able to highlight and of course process a lot of human rights violations, particularly touching on women.
If FIDA is supported in terms of its capacity to implement the various projects in support for women, in terms of land rights, in terms of social issues, and even economic empowerment, FIDA will be able to do more.
From the interactions we've had with the women workers and the stakeholders, we could then be able to have a more inclusive partnership with the stakeholders. And as I'd mentioned, right from the county to the national level and probably to the international level, because we are having factories that are run at an international level, the multinational companies. So this is a conversation that should not end within the county. It is something that needs to be expounded beyond the borders, and the more stakeholders we involve, then the better for us. It's also very important for us to really explore mostly out of court or alternative to court sort of settlements of grievances. And this one will be even right from the farms, when we look at their grievance handling policies, find out the satisfaction of the workers on how best their grievances are handled, whether then these policies need to be reviewed, and instill the confidence that indeed the grievances can be handled internally. And in the event where they cannot be handled internally, then they come out to a more empowered system where they trust the alternative justice system, they trust the alternative dispute resolution mechanisms that are available, so that the court will then be the last resort. Because at the end of the day, this is an employer-employee relationship, and the relationship after the conflict matters a lot.
Yeah, there is drastic progress in terms of FIDA support to women. And of course, most women in tea estates have been empowered. They can walk into the law firm and air their grievances. I think FIDA has done a milestone in terms of looking into the hearts of these women. It is a stone throw away, so that we can fully recognize the aspects of bringing this monster to an end.
Hiyo mafunzo ya FIDA amenisaidia na naenda kusaidia wengine, na nimeanza tangu siku yenye tuliwachana nao kina Janet, nikakuja kufunza wengine, nikaambia kumbe tuko na right.
imenisaidia mbali sana. Hata kama hii kampuni yetu hataki mimi kuonyeshana, mimi ni mtu mwenye nitaweza kufunza wenzangu wachue mengi. Hataki, ninafunza tu, tukitembea na hawa nachukua one by one.
Ujumbe wangu na kitu yenye nasema waendelee kufundisha sisi kila wakati, msisahau sisi. Hata kwa vile nimeingia hiyo kikundi ya wamama, nimebadilika kabisa.
Nilikuwa nataka wanawake achue hii mafunzo, anapea akuwe strong, achue haki yao. Haki yao ni nini? Akisa achua haki yao, mbele hapo atachua sasa mengi. Kericho anaendelea mzuri, amepata saa hii watu strong. Watu strong wenye anasaidia wamama kwa hapa chini, kuchua njia yenye ataweza kusaidia, tufunue macho hawa, tuko crown, tukichunga crown.
Through advocacy, provision of legal assistance, and collaborative efforts with strategic partners, FIDA-Kenya remains committed to advancing and promoting the inherent rights of women in Kenya. In partnership with development partners, county governments, and like-minded organizations in civil society, the realization of the alienable rights of women and girls is achievable.